We are living in a time when the line between biology and technology is getting thinner. Every year we're seeing updates in our phones and in the AI now that is now in our life, the AI in our phones and on our computers, our laptops, and how intelligence is really shaping the way we think, learn and relate to each other. And for parents, teachers and guides of young people, this raises a deeper question. How can we protect our child's sense of self and sovereignty in a world that is increasingly digital, fast moving and artificial? How can we help our children stay connected and keep that feeling of being human, those feelings that indicate that we're human, like bliss and joy, in a system that's rewarding speed, stimulation, a lessening concentration span, like the constant distraction? So I don't believe the answer is fear or panic, and I think simply banning technology isn't the answer either. But I do believe in the idea of bliss, not as an escape, but as a stable state of inner coherence, joy and presence. And when I say bliss, I don't mean a temporary emotional high, although it is temporary. I'm talking about a physical and energetic state where the mind, the heart and the body, the whole nervous system, the whole body are working together as one unified being, one that you are. And the idea of bliss isn't just a feeling, it's a state of coherence, an organized, self-organized field on a human system that is more resilient, more capable of holding their divinity and the information that flows through them without fragmenting or without splitting into negative fear and thought models, where the field in physics terms is implosive rather than explosive, which supports higher dimensional thinking and functioning of the body. And on the DNA side, thinking about our DNA, Dan Winter, I'm a student of Dan Winter, he often connects the idea of bliss. When a person is in deep coherence, the body's field or aura becomes more symmetrical, fractal and charge rich. In plain English, in plain language, he's suggesting that bliss isn't just emotional relief. It actually helps the body to organize itself more intelligently, to find that coherence which supports healing, which preserves your life force rather than leaking or dissipating it. And this matters because if a human being is coherent, they're hard to manipulate. And if a human being is incoherence, it's harder for them to feel fragmented. And a child who knows how to return to their own inner space, to their own inner feeling of joy, is much less likely to be pulled apart by the noise of the digital world or by the noise that happens at school, in the playground or at home. So today I want to talk about why bliss is one of the most uniquely human states we can cultivate and why it may be one of the strongest forms of protection we can encourage our children to feel. So we can help our next generation, because we're not just raising kids or young people, we are raising the humans that are going to look after the world and the life that we are going to continue to lead as we get older. And the question isn't whether they will live with AI. I don't think anyone doubts that anymore. Of course they will. The question is, will they know how to stay feeling human with human feelings while doing it? So with AI woven into our daily life, our search engines, our writing tools, our navigation systems, and increasingly more and more even in our digital or interactions when we talk with other people, even the cloud, it can sound almost mystical like, but it's still a non-physical field of information. But unlike consciousness, it really isn't alive and it doesn't behave like a human being. It doesn't feel and it doesn't have the feeling of love and it doesn't carry conscience. It can process information, but it cannot hold wisdom in the way that a mature human being can. That's what I think the real issue is, not technology itself. The real issue is identity. If a child doesn't know who they are before they're constantly shaped by machines, then the machine becomes their reference point. But if they're anchored in their own knowing, in their own energy, in their own human beingness, then technology becomes and remains a tool rather than a master. We are dimensional beings living dimensional lives. That means we're not only logical in the way our minds work with screens and linear time, we are also intuition and imagination, creativity, feeling, memory. We work with symbols, we work with mystery. And we want children to have that healthy relationship with AI, but we have to teach them how to be and how to remain rooted in their own field first. So why bliss matters. I want to spend a moment here on the idea of bliss because I think it's deeply misunderstood. What is bliss? Bliss yes, it is a pleasant feeling, but it's not just that. And it's not just a means for escapism, and it's not just a simple naive positivity. It is, in a deeper sense, bliss, an internal state of order, something that happens when a person is not split against themselves and when they are fully present. I've been learning about the physics of bliss from Dan Winter, who spent years talking about coherence, symmetry, and the physics of bliss. In his language, a human being becomes way more powerful and connected when their energy isn't scattered outward in stress or fear or fragmentation, but instead is drawn inwards into this highly ordered state of being, inwardly coherent state, I would call it. I would also call it the 0 point. He often describes this as an implosive quality, not a collapse in a negative sense, but a kind of inward wholeness that concentrates the life force into a real, powerful, concentrated strength. A human being feeling bliss is not collapsed or passive. They're organized internally and energetically. They are coherent. Their energy is not flying here, there, and everywhere, and they're not seeming chaotic in 10 different directions at once. The body, the emotions, the attention, and the nervous system are in alignment, and they're able to hold a strong signal. They come across well to other people, and they receive information well. And that may be one reason why bliss is so uniquely human. A machine can imitate intelligence, and it can imitate or mimic language, pattern and response, but it cannot generate the inner radiance that comes from a living being whose consciousness, heart and body are moving together in harmony. And this always happens in the present, being in the present. That radiance matters because a coherent human being is not only more resilient, they are more perceptive. They can feel what is true. They can feel the truth. They can sense when something is off. They are less likely to be mass hypnotized by noise. So if we want to protect our children in a world of AI, we don't only need information literacy, we need coherence literacy. We need to teach them how to return to a state where their inner life is intact, where they're able to hold and be in their inner life. And this is what bliss does. Bliss can restore that signal. I often refer to the importance of energetic hygiene, energy hygiene, being aware of your energy. And by that I mean the simple daily practices that help, or awarenesses that help a person stay clear and stable and less vulnerable to chaos. Just as we teach children how to be hygienic, wash their hands, etc., we also need to teach children how to care for their attention, their emotions, their breath especially, and their presence, so they're not constantly absorbing everyone else's anxiety. When I use words like the field or energy body, I'm referring to that felt atmosphere of a person's inner life and the energy space around them, the way they carry themselves, respond to the world, and stay intact under pressure. A coherent child is not just a happy child, they're a child who are living in their whole body. Their mind and their emotions are working together. And that matters because in modern digital life, they are often fragmented. It fragments us. We often jump to control, compare, to react, and we're giving things partial attention, and this keeps people living in their heads while disconnecting them from their body, their breath, and their deeper sense, the higher sense of self. So energetic hygiene is what happens, or what helps a child stay connected to their environment. And it's not about fear, but it is about discernment, and it's about helping them to notice what nourishes them and what drains them. And this is where I want to say something important. I think we all need to be learning to be like shamans in a modern sense of the word. And by saying the word shaman, I mean someone who can move with fluidity and coherence between various states of consciousness and bring back and anchor down wisdom that helps themselves and the people around them. Someone who knows how to move between ordinary reality and deeper states of awareness without getting lost. Someone who can stay grounded while also listening to what is the subtle, the symbolic, the intuitive, and the unseen. That doesn't mean that everyone needs to become specialized in rituals But it does mean we all need to develop the capacity to navigate consciousness with skill. And this is true for adults. I think this is also true for children too. And we should be teaching our children how to enter into presence and stillness, how to sense our own inner signals, how to tell the difference between stimulation and nourishment. This is moving fluidly between different states of consciousness, and how to return back to their own inner truth, to their own inner knowing of themselves, to trust this deeper knowing. And that is the kind of shamanic literacy I'm talking about. Because if children learn how to consume information, but never learn how to travel inward and return to their own inner feeling of wisdom, then they're not really being prepared for life. They are being prepared for dependency. In a sense, the idea of a shamanic person isn't dependent on the outside noise. They know how to access their own center. Bliss is not just a spiritual luxury. It is a sign of inner alignment. When a child is in genuine bliss, not sugar high stimulation, but real embodied joy, which often comes from just playing, their system is more integrated. They are not split between the head and the heart and the body. They are present. Their attention is unified. And that matters because a lot of modern digital life fragments this attention so that children, young people don't stay in their heart. They don't connect the dots or the whole body. These things are designed for reaction, not reflection. And they are designed for stimulation over nourishment. Bliss is the opposite of fragmentation. It brings the whole person online. A child or young person who knows the feeling of their own inner joy is much less dependent on external validation. Imagine that. They are less likely to chase every screen, every reward, every artificial hit of stimulation or dopamine hit. They begin to discover what their real vitality is, and what it does not come from is the outside world. It comes from inside. And that's why I see bliss as protection, not because it makes life perfect, but because it helps a child remain connected to their own source, being resourceful. And when a child is connected to their own source, they are less easily manipulated by fear. So what does this actually look like in practical terms? It does sound a bit far out there talking about bliss, but it means making room for nature, for stillness, for presence, for breath and movement, for curiosity. It means helping children spend time in the natural world, encouraging them to be present where coherence is everywhere. Coherence is everywhere in nature, in the patterns of the trees, in the rhythm of the waves, in the spiral of the shells, in the breathing of the body, in the turning of the seasons. It means encouraging movement that helps children feel at home in their bodies, bringing their focus and awareness into the whole body, and making space and time to allow intuition to flourish, not as fantasy, but as a kind of inner knowing that can be developed and refined. It means creating homes and learning spaces where the heart matters, where making decisions from the heart matters, and where feelings aren't dismissed, and where presence is valued more than performance. And it means being careful about overexposure to digital content that can fragment attention span and accelerate anxiety and pull children away from the sense of the wholeness of themselves and their own centers. A child doesn't need more noise. They already create enough of their own, and a lot of that is necessary when they're playing, but they also have the digital noise. I think we are in a species-wide transition. Something old is breaking down and something new is being born. And by new human, I do not mean a cyborg or a machine-like being. I mean a person who is more whole, more conscious, more emotionally integrated, and more capable of staying rooted in truth while living in a highly mediated world. Our role as parents and teachers and guardians or guides is not just to create that dependency. It's to help children become sovereign and independent, heart-centered. That means teaching them how to think, how to feel, how to think for themselves, how to feel for themselves, how to discern and to regulate themselves, and how to return back to that place when they need. And it also means teaching them how to walk between the worlds, the outer world of school, work, and other people and technology, and the inner world of the soul, intuition and stillness, without losing their center. to understand and embrace it too. And that's why I think the shamanic path, it's an idea that works here, because it's not just ancient, but it's a modern way to help children think about how they can thrive in a world full of AI and raise people who know how to stay coherent inside of themselves. People who are not just technologically advanced, but spiritually awake. People who can hold presence, people who can hold joy and bliss, people who can hold all of these things. Having AI in our lives doesn't mean we have the loss of our humanity. It can also mean that it becomes a mirror that reminds us of what really matters in our life: love, coherence, creativity and presence, and that inner truth. If we help our young people build that stable inner field now, they are far less likely to feel vulnerable in the future of noise, confusion, and AI influence. They will know how to come back to themselves, and perhaps that's the real work, not resisting the future, but raising children who have a strong identity, who are strong enough inside to meet it. So when I speak of bliss, I'm not speaking about indulgence. I'm speaking about the capacity to feel it, a capacity to stay whole, to stay human, and a capacity to stay free and remain that way. And that may be one of our greatest gifts we can give to our next generation. Thank you for listening.